Hi everyone, Sick Raccoon here, literally off promethazine, and today I'm covering this really interesting thread I found of a 4chan post going into the changes in Sonic Team's internal mentality towards Frontiers development and how this is the first time Iizuka is producing a game that he actually enjoys himself.
What?
Like, on a human level. This has been blowing up on Twitter, and basically every Sonic creator out there has put up their own 2 cents on this, so I wanted to cover it and add additional context of what the other creators think, as well as what the dreadfully named
SonicTubers
are saying in response. Because honestly, it's doubtful anyone is going to cover this topic in depth in a video, since it's not a leak, and it isn't the hot new Frontiers gameplay or story trailer that fans are thirsting for. This is just a reply and isn't the original post of the thread, but that's because whoever tweeted out these screenshots didn't link to the thread and cropped out all the information, so I can't find it anywhere, which is just so awesome. Thanks so much, dude. It means a ton to me. The post is broken up into 3 sections, and I'll cut in with any relevant thoughts and info. So before we start, you don't need to be told what to do. You already know it, and I refuse to say it. So hit the thing, make sure your thing, and set the thing to all so you don't miss out on a Hugo Sonic news drop. Now, let's begin. The thread begins with, the answer is way simpler than any of you realize, and it's the same reason why you won't get any of the other kind of specific games you've been about for the past 20 or more years. So yeah, he comes right out of the gate sounding like an unhinged manifesto, which is pretty appropriate for a 4chan thread. After trying and failing, or succeeding, but still getting that in some cases, to meet the impossible demands and unrealistically and undeservedly high standards and expectations that people have over Sonic by trying to make what others want. Frontiers in Iizuka's one statement where he essentially told everyone to shut the fuck up and wait to play the game instead of acting like they already knew everything about it makes it very clear what's going on. They just don't want to. That's it. They're tired and don't want to make games they're not interested in anymore. Iizuka in particular finally wants to make a Sonic game he himself is actually interested and invested in. And Frontiers is that game. Iizuka and his team likely doesn't even fully understand what most people want. Or why, because you don't even know what you want or why it would be good. You can't even agree on what the good games in the franchise are, even among the classic shit. Anyone would get sick of dealing with that. And I'll let him continue, but so far I find myself at like 50% agreement. Like, even if I agree with what they're writing, the way it's written just makes me physically cringe. It's so try-hard edgy, I can't. I swear. Sonic's real biggest problem is having too many different kinds of fans that never decided to just f*** off forever when the thing they like left and clung to the franchise for decades, thinking they were owed something for doing so when they could have been playing other franchises instead. With the advent of both movies being a huge successes, it's fitting that Iizuka finally realized that the smartest move he could make was to finally make a game he actually wanted, that a completely fresh and new audience will enjoy and essentially say, "F*** those guys," to the bitter old fans who will end up getting dwarfed by the new mainstream casual crowd that's somehow significantly more open-minded. And the best part, it's working, as most folks that played it like it. And I don't know about all of that, but I definitely agree with a lot. The biggest parts that irk me is mostly the wording, not really the ideas. Like, he keeps saying, the fans, it's the fans, which makes it seem like us niche fanboys is what Sega's looking at, when really they're looking at focus groups and the general audience reception. However, fans and the general audience have come to the same conclusions. It's just that the fanboys are much more extreme on literally every level about it. Like, I wouldn't say the past Sonic games were awful, horrific, world-ending, but definitely mediocre to bad. Nobody thought Sonic Colors Ultimate was an amazing port, and even you Sonic Forces defenders that flood my comments have to admit that it's in no way the best 3D Sonic game, and if you genuinely think that, it's probably because it's your first 3D Sonic game. With Frontiers, this is honestly the Sonic game I've always dreamed of. We always said, Sega, hire this man, and they did it. Sega actually listened, and the response and negativity is slowly but surely loosening. But again, this makes me understand the users post a little bit more. Like, we got visuals of the Dream Sonic game, and fans didn't like it because obviously the playtester was showing off the environment? Nah. You guys just want to hate, let's be real, and that's fine. It's kind of what the internet bred us all to do. But so far, everything about Frontiers seems to be the freshest game since Sonic Adventure. It feels like they're not just trying to trim the fat and make it 20% better, but throw away the whole cake and bake a new one. However, it is true that no matter how good of a game Frontiers ends up being, there's so many different wants that it's certain not everyone will be happy. The real goal is 85%. If 85% of people who play Frontiers think it's one of the best Sonic games of all time, that opinion will likely persist. And again, all of this could age terribly, because even though Sonic Frontiers seems to be the best looking 3D Sonic game in a long time, this is Sonic Team we're talking about. They screwed up Origins. How? I even gave them faith there, and while Origins wasn't a disaster, the pure amount of bugs were unnecessary for what it is, and it really shows what's going on behind the scenes. Not even mentioning how Sega threw the marketing for this in the garbage and dropped Frontiers news every 2 days in June, and then dropped nothing in July. Like, seriously, if you think I'm exaggerating, the fact that we got a pretty big Sonic release and literally almost every Sonic tuber only covered it in a review or stream is really telling, especially when all of us covered Sonic Colors Ultimate. And if we put it on the scale, Sonic Origins is like infinitely better than Sonic Colors Ultimate, right? I think we all agree on that one. So with there still being some technical issues with Frontiers that the playtesters have written about, it's really up to time if Sonic Team is gonna fix these or sweep it under the rug like usual. One issue that I keep hearing is the game starts to get laggier and dip in frames a lot the more you play it. This is due to a memory leak issue and actually isn't that uncommon. Halo Infinite even shipped with the same problem. Granted, that was also definitely a bad launch. And that's not even mentioning the pop-ins in Frontiers, which everyone's talking about, because that's something that personally bothers me a lot less, as it's simply expected since there's no mountains or major objects to obfuscate them loading in. Like, obviously we're going to see it. I've talked about how they can make the animation better by slowing it down a lot, because there actually is a load-in animation. It's just really fast, but I don't want to repeat myself from other videos too much, especially since most of you guys have already seen that, and if you haven't, there's nothing stopping you from watching that video. Trust me, I probably sound better in that video than this one. I don't think Sonic Team is trying to abandon their old fans, and that's provably not the case here. Like, we even have confirmation of 2D and linear 3D cyberspace levels, so they clearly want some familiarity for fans. These will also be super replayable, and I predict the Boost era Sonic fans are going to find these as the parts they're going to come back to the most.
All right!
Now, let's get into the reaction from other creators, as it feels 50-50. Creators either heavily agreed or heavily disagreed with this 4chan post. So first, a popular Twitter user named MBanny came up with a good take, and he wrote, or they, I don't know their gender. Sonic is a globally recognized piece of pop culture. Interesting version of piece to use. Piece? It's going to attract people that want radically different things. People wouldn't stress over the specifics of what those are if the series was better at consolidating its appeal and the games were reliably good, which I agree with completely. Next, Astro Wings, a popular Twitter artist, wrote, I don't blame him and agree with this. Sonic fandom is a mixed bag, so I could see why they'd get tired of trying to figure out what people actually want. I would just stop listening to them at that point, which seems accurate, as they literally stopped listening, and probably for the best, at least for now. Maybe if after Frontiers, maybe if they keep messing up, we can pull them back a little. Next, Matt Has No Cuts writes, I think if a Sonic game is good, people will love it. Doesn't matter if it's Boost, Adventure, Classic, or whatever. If the product is high quality, I believe people will realize that. Sure, there will be fans who still hate it, but they will be overshadowed. Which is true, but you know, first they've got to make a good game, and the highest likelihood of that happening is right now. So yeah, another good take. Next, Sam Procrastinates writes, I agree with some of what's said here, but I don't agree with how this is at the fault of Sonic fans. The inconsistency in the games is the reason there are 50 different Sonic fans that are advocating for 50 different things at once. They sort of created where we are now, which I think is a reasonable take. Sure, Sonic fans are to blame, but Sega is ultimately to blame for why those Sonic fans are the way they are. And also, and I don't want to be the one to say it, but I don't think there's a mommy and a daddy in the picture, okay? That's all I'm saying. Personally, I do think game variety is good, and we likely wouldn't be Sonic fans if we were getting the same consistently similar games since the 90s. But, you know, if you're going to give variety, maybe good variety? Good variety? Ooh.
Wow.
So I wouldn't say it's necessarily to blame, but it's definitely a blessing and a curse. Next, KevStarMania, a popular Twitter user, writes, "That's why I always say there will never be a Sonic game that pleases everyone. Different fans want different things. Not to say Sega can't take fan advice. In fact, that's a huge must for them. But at the same time, understand that you can't please everyone." And this one, I actually disagree with. Yes, you can't please literally everyone, but you can't do that in any aspect of anything. And I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. But can a vast majority of people like something? Yeah, absolutely. Frontiers very well could please at least 85%. Like I said, we're aiming for 85%. If we can get 85% of Sonic fans happy, that's a dub. Next, Trey Nobles writes, "Even though I'm excited for Frontiers, I do hate this general consensus that the fans are at fault as to why the fan base is as split as it is. That's on Sega/Sonic team, not the fans." Which, again, I sort of disagree with. It's a little A and B. So it is partially on the consumer for walking into it and not being able to resist the impulse to consume. I know, not buying a Sonic game? What? But what do you think? I know, it's a little corny, but I am sick, so I actually have time to read the comments. That's this. I wanted to show this off since so many people were talking about it online, and there's no news, so why not? Sending off a few different videos to a few different editors, as I'm going to be 100% real with you guys. I'm not getting much better, at least not quickly. I don't know why. The coughing, it's awful. I feel not better, other than my energy. My energy's better for sure. Also, at least the depression's over, right? Right? Depression over? Based. All right, video over. Lots of love. I actually need your prayers. And peace. Peace. That was a bad piece. Let's do another. Peace.
Going ghost, I got E-girls on my boots. Going ghost, I got E-girls on my boots. Goth girls clinging to my boots. Goth girls clinging to my boots. Rocket Nation, yeah, we looking cute.